What's up everybody, Mystically's here, and today I got 10 unique titles for the PlayStation 2 that I feel like were underappreciated, underrated, or overall overlooked. Stick around to see which ones you might have missed out on.
Super Dragon Ball Z! So, what do you want to play?
First up on the list, you're going to be looking at Super Dragon Ball Z, originally a Namco arcade, ported to the PlayStation 2 by Atari, and at a time with a lot of 3D Dragon Ball Z games popping up on the scene, I think this one was one of the more balanced and geared for competitive play, with having fully customizable character cards for each one of the characters. Makes for loads of fun in the future if you have a bunch of friends playing it over a year's time. Having purple Majin Buu with a galley gun, or having green Vegeta with a Destructo disc. Makes for loads of fun over time, and I love how this game is set up just like the arcade. And I personally think it's an awesome and not talked about often Dragon Ball Z fighter. Test Drive Eva Destruction, another game that was produced by Atari but was developed by Monster Games. And this is another one that's best with a friend. 1 to 4 players, but still super fun with just 2. 30 different vehicles, 25 different events, 8 different tracks, lots of different combinations for destruction. And the overall winner of the events isn't just determined by your places in the race, but also by how much damage you did to all the other vehicles and kills you got along the way. And it can really tip the scales and points in the end. And the single player campaign in this game is also really fun and really fleshed out. Open world experience where you get to drive from race to race. You gotta start off with a Ford Escort basically and work your way up to an awesome pack of demolition cars in the end. And I feel like this is a great addition to any racing fan's collection. So here's one for the shmup fans out there, R-Type Final. And the amount of ships in this game is ridiculous. You will spend literally dozens of hours just unlocking ships in this game, seriously. This game is an awesome 3D, very storyline, almost cinematic, driven in its way, shmup. Horizontal, kind of slow at first. It speeds up as you get through the level, each level. Some people don't like that. I like that. It gives you a chance to kind of get used to what's going on. When it starts to speed up, you don't really notice it as much. And the boss fights in this game can be massive and very creative. You're not just going to be shooting one direction. You're going to have to be maneuvering all around this boss, different phases, doing different tactics the whole way if you're going to try and make it. And this one's a little bit on the pricey side nowadays, but it's well worth the money because you're going to get many hours of entertainment and replayability from this title. Moving right along, next up on the list we're going to take a look at Shadow of Destiny, or Shadow of Memories in other territories. This is an in-house developed game by Konami, and as a lot of the textures and character designs look familiar to Silent Hill fans, I assure you this is a vastly different game. You take on the role of Ike Kutch, a young man who lives in a small European town in what will seem to be modern times at the game's release, so about early 2000s. And through the means of a demon, time travel, and a lot of luck, you have to solve your own murder and the overall mystery of what is Shadow of Destiny. And the creepy voice you're hearing right here is none other than Charles Martinet, famous voice actor for doing Mario, Luigi, and a bunch of other characters in the Mario series. And the main function of this game is you're always fighting against time for the present, against time for the past. You'll always be going back to different events in the past to try to change what happens so you don't get murdered this time. And in this game, you're gonna get murdered a lot.
There I am.
And the amount of different outcomes that are involved in this game from all the different choices throughout are going to keep you driving forward to replay it over and over again to see all the different events. And they really did an amazing job basing an entire game around one town throughout a whole bunch of different time periods. They're actually very different and very detailed throughout all the different periods. And if you're looking for something that's kind of strange and very interesting, you can't go wrong with Shadow of Destiny.
I think I'm going out of my mind.
So next up, we're going to be taking a look at Champions Return to Arms, developed by Snowblind Studios, 1 to 4 player local play, and this is an awesome hack and slash RPG. D&D inspired, and this is a series I don't hear people talking about enough. This is a sequel to the game Champion of Norath, and it's an awesome duo to have together, because you can make a character on Norath, play through the whole storyline, get level 20 or so, and then bring your character on over to Return to Arms and keep playing through the whole storyline, leveling up the whole way. It's an awesome experience to do with 4 players together, and both these games are exclusive to the PlayStation, and I don't feel like there's any better hack and slash on the console. So I've been playing Champions since I was a teenager, but I really feel like it ranks right up there with the tippity top of the best hack and slash RPGs there are, right next to modern day Diablo. When you want to play 4 player local, this is really the creme de la creme, and being able to do 2 players in their inventory at the same time saves so much time with local play. So if you've got the friends and controllers, I would highly recommend getting yourself Champions Norath and Champions Return to Arms. So here's one for the turn-based strategists out there, Robin Hood Defender of the Crown. And this is a very unassuming game. When I first got this game years ago, I didn't think too much of it at first. But when you start to scratch beyond the surface, this game's got a lot of depth and a lot of challenge.
As much as you need. We can always steal more.
And it's not all armies and territories. This game has many events where your skill will determine how much gold you get to fuel your armies, whether it be raiding a castle to get its gold, throwing a jousting tournament to beat other competitors to get their fame, glory, or land. And with constantly bouncing back and forth between the one-on-one skill-based events and the overview strategy-based events, makes for a very addictive and very well thought out strategy-based game. And almost none of these events are easy. These are all challenging events. The archery, the catapult, when you do the turn-based strategy battles, it is fast-paced and you have to know which armies, which units you're sending where, or else you're going to lose unnecessary units. And this game, if you can find it, can be got on the cheap. If you're into strategy games, if you're into Robin Hood games at all, it would be a missed opportunity if you didn't pick up Defender of the Crown. Heroes of Might and Magic, a game that lives on PC, but came over to visit on PlayStation for a little while. It's an awesome, underrated, not really talked about game, I feel like. You start the game off, choose your character, they all got their pluses and minuses. Run around, get as much gold, do as many battles as you can, trying to raise your army, getting better and better, bigger and bigger armies. By the end of this game, you're going to be having dragons and ghosts and all kinds of crazy stuff in your army. It's pretty awesome. It can be a little bit slow when it comes to the turn-based fighting, but they do have a fast forward option, so even built into the console, that's pretty cool. And this game can have a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. And take the extra time to build up your armies before you attack the castles. you won't have any problem. And if you're a fan of turn-based strategy RPGs, Heroes is definitely a title you're going to want to check out. So here we got Jak X Combat Racing, and at a time where there was a lot of Jak games coming out, this one could have easily been looked over. And like the last game, it's got a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning. It's got a lot of tutorials. It's going to probably take you about 30-45 minutes just to get to the tutorial. But once you do, you find it's a fully fleshed out, awesome, very unique and creative racing combat game. And there's a lot of different options when it comes to speccing out your different cars, customizing the color, tuning up any of the options you're used to when it comes to racing combat cars. And I never played this game before making this video. I try to go through and get at least 3 or 4 or 5 titles when I do these videos that I've never played before, just so I'm not completely going off the bias of my own collection. And this one really surprised me. I had a lot of fun playing through it, learning it, and doing the different combat races.
Do you request control instructions?
Next up, we're going to be looking at Zone of Enders, the second runner. And I like both the Zone of Ender games. The first one's a little bit lacking in development. It came out just at the launch of the PS2. This one had a lot more time in the oven, and it really shows when you go to play it. Being a brainchild of Hideo Kojima, this game is as bizarre as it is cool. Take on advanced orbital frames, mechs basically, and a civil war of sorts between Earth and Mars in the far future. And the combat in this game is advanced and it's fast. And for how fast the combat moves in this game, the camera tracking is actually really good. It may stutter a little bit at times, but I feel like it doesn't hurt the gameplay at all. And you're constantly going back and forth between your attacks, between attacking multiple enemies at once, or just one standalone enemy. And for being what I consider the little sister of Metal Gear, it doesn't get talked about enough.
Mars. I always thought of it as a romantic place.
Last but not least on the list, we're going to be looking at Red Faction. And this game is near and dear to my heart. I remember playing this game when it first came out on the PlayStation 2. And in my eyes, this is the most immersive single-player experience on the PlayStation 2. You play as Parker, brand new miner, just showed up during the Miner Rebellion. In Total Recall style, you gotta fight your way out. And it's a good thing you can save wherever you want in this game, because you're gonna be doing it often, because it's not easy. And I really enjoyed all the different vehicles you got to play throughout this game. It really feel like when you played all the way through to the very end that you were Parker and you had to escape Mars and you had to go through a ridiculous amount of stuff to do it. I thought it was the end like 4 or 5 times and it still wasn't the. But with its destructive environments, awesome 2-player action and replayability, I feel like Red Faction is the perfect addition to any PS2 collection. So thanks for coming along while we checked out just a few of the PlayStation 2 games I feel like are underappreciated or overall just not talked about much nowadays. I'm not saying none of these games got great praise at the time of their release, and maybe a port or so beyond, but I don't really hear anybody talking about them right now, so I wanted to give them a special chance right here to get highlighted. And don't be surprised if you see another one of these lists come out again in the future, because the PlayStation 2 library is so vast and diverse. There's so many great titles on it. That's why it's still the #1 top-selling console of all time. I'm Mysticles. Until next time, stay safe out there.